In the early days of Moses going down into Egypt to declare before Pharaoh, let my people go, and as Pharaoh became obstinate, hard-hearted, and disrespectful and contemptible to God's servant Moses, Moses then proclaimed that the Nile River, which was the source of life, the artery of life in Egypt, will be turned to blood, meaning that a river of blood does not produce fish or enjoyment, or a place where you can go swim, doesn't produce the silt to produce the crops that the Nile River was famous for. It became a river of blood. And I'm here today in the early days of my appeal to Pharaoh Eric Adams to let my people in the prisons come home to stop the crime running rampant in New York City. I'm here to declare that the subway systems will become rivers of blood, Pharaoh Eric Adams. I'm here to say to you that they will become rivers of blood. More recently, twice this year, someone has been pushed in front of or jumped in front of a subway train, killed instantly. There have been stabbings and slashings on the subway, bloodletting like you won't believe, more recently by the teenagers. But Pharaoh Eric Adams, the subway systems over the next year, unless you let my people go, are going to become rivers of blood. I've got a couple of videos I want to run to let you hear and see the most recent stabbings by teenagers in the subway system and around the high schools of New York City. Mr. Engineer, run clip number one.
Also in Brooklyn, 4 people stabbed on a subway platform, 3 of them teenagers. It happened on the Flushing Avenue stop. Police say the teenage victims, all 16 years old, plus a 21-year-old, were stabbed after getting into an argument with another group of teenage boys. The victims all walked to nearby Woodhull Hospital for treatment. So far, police have made no arrests.
All right. The subway systems will become rivers of blood. And there'll be so much bloodshed in the subways that it will then rise with high tide on the streets of New York City. Pharaoh Eric Adams. Now, Pharaoh Eric Adams, as you know, Pharaoh didn't think he had to listen to Moses say anything at all. And so he rejected him. But the bloodletting continued. The bloodletting, in fact, Pharaoh Eric Adams, there's a slight possibility, however I doubt it, that you could become America's mayor, because there's crime all over America. There's a crime wave sweeping from coast to coast. It isn't just here in New York City. But were you wise enough to listen to the counsel of the Lord's servant, James David Manning, and implement the Joseph Project by bringing men home to say to their little brothers, don't do what your big brother did? Men who have served at least 7 years of sentences in the prison system, who are ready to return and be profitable citizens the way James David Manning is. Pharaoh Eric Adams, you know, I spent 3.5 years in prison. I was in Dannemora up in Clinton, New York, and I was in the Union Correctional Facility down in Rayford, Florida, 2 of the toughest prisons on planet Earth on the East Coast. And yet I've been home. I've been clean for 44 years. Have not thrown a brick so much as even sneezed wrong in front of a police officer. But I've been able to find 3 schools. I educate children. I've served over 1 million meals. I've saved the city of New York more than $15 million with our breakfast program. Pharaoh Eric Adams, our church has saved the city of New York more than $15 million with our meals and breakfast program. We've educated children for the past 25 years, from kindergarten through high school. Eric Adams, we have housed the homeless. We have saved the city of New York millions of dollars by housing the homeless, feeding the hungry, educating children, and sending them off to great colleges, not to mention our teaching have kept men from going back to crime, married their wives, become fathers to their children, and leaders in their homes and leaders in the community. Millions of dollars has this church, ATLAH, under my leadership with the help of Jesus. And yet I'm now reaching out to you, telling you God's got a word that if you don't reach out and start the Joseph Project to bring men like me, and you'll probably get men better than I who can do better than I, to come home and to clean up the streets of New York City, that the subways are going to run with blood, and so will the streets of New York City. All right, one other video I want you to listen to Pharaoh Eric Adams, and I'll be right back.
Kent County High School was placed on lockdown after police say one student stabbed another student. Both were taken to the hospital. Police say the suspect was treated and released, then placed into police custody. Parents are able to pick their children up early if they want to. We'll continue following this breaking news situation as more information becomes available.
Now, the summer is coming, and we've got extremely high prices for gasoline, extremely high prices for food. There's going to be shortages, and there's going to be a lot of, if you will, sabotage leveled against New York, Pharaoh Eric Adams, by Russia that is going to now do cyber attacks to shut down. There may even be a shutting down of the power grids in western New York that feeds 5 states. I'm not saying I'm wishing for that. There could be the retaliation that the beast, Vladimir Putin and Gog, Russia, against America, may see our subway systems shut down. Our bridges and tunnels, if you will, become compromised by, if you will, internal global warfare that's going on. We need men that are strong men like me that have been in prison. It's called the Joseph Project. Our young people don't have anything to look up to anymore. Many of them are frustrated. The other thing is that there's been such a flooding of homosexuality and perversion over the internet that many of our young people are disillusioned, and they are now losing touch with reality. Ask any parent that's got a child between 3 years old and 24. They are not stable. And all the time, Pharaoh Eric Adams, that these young people were home and not under the watchful eye of a school teacher or a parent, they were online with forces that, well, let me put it to you this way. TikTok is managed by Xi Jinping in China. TikTok in China, in communist China, has more influence over our youth that are now stabbing, refusing to educate themselves, blood going to be running in the streets, amid a number of other things were summer from hell. But TikTok and Xi Jinping, who runs TikTok, have opened door into the lives of our children. And also many of the leaders and people you got around you, they're all now influenced by social media. The men in prison that I will bring home under the Joseph Project, they have not had their brains seared and their conscience washed by social media. They've had limited access to it. They are from the old school. They remember life before Facebook. They remember life before these social media platforms. And they can bring America and the world back to reality. It potentially, I doubt it, but potentially, Eric Adams, it could make you a hero to take such a bold move to settle and bring back a sense of peace. But here in New York City, and Pharaoh Eric Adams, God forbid, I'm certainly not praying this, I'm certainly not praying it, but listen, this is the real world which we live in. If another police officer gets shot or shot and dies, they're going to get rid of you. Because I've come to talk to you the way Moses came to talk to Pharaoh. And you have rejected it. Out of hand. And you've let these people who tell you that don't listen to Manning. He's not for our first black president, Obama. Well, first of all, Obama ain't black. Obama got a white mama. Ask Charlemagne the God. Obama didn't do nothing for black people. Ask black people. You got more homeless men now in New York City since Obama than in the history of the whole world. Because Obama did nothing for them. Then you got these other religious leaders, all these other bleeding hearts, whites, and liberals around you telling you, well, Manning never says anything good. He's against the Democrats. He's against the LGBTQ. I'm just against them because God is against them. But I'm like Micah the prophet, where the King Jehoshaphat said, is there any word from the Lord? So that our subways and streets do not run with blood. And you let somebody important get stabbed. See, they can walk over on the east side, over on Park Avenue and Fifth Avenue, and walk right by these homeless people who they're not paying any attention to them. But let them get stabbed and die on the streets of the east side of New York, when you could have called the Joseph Project into reality, Eric Adams, and brought the men home so that we can make our streets safe. And they might look over there in Chicago and say, well, it's working in New York. Let's try it in Chicago. It's working in Chicago. Let's try it in Houston. Working in Houston. Let's try it in Los Angeles. Who started it? Pharaoh Eric Adams listened to the Lord's servant, James David Manning, and launched this bold program in order that we might have safety in our streets in what is now going to be a summer from hell, with what's going on in the East, with the war in Ukraine, with inflation, and with a bunch of other things that we've not anticipated, that Russia is coming at our grid. Russia is going to come at our, if you will, power grids. That's right. Russia is going to come at our electrical system. You think that Biden been able to shut down the banks of Russia? Russia got some of the best hackers on the planet, and they're going to come at our banking system. That's right. But you have an opportunity. But you know you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. But at least you've been warned. There is a word from the Lord for New York City and beyond. It's called the Joseph Project. And maybe some of you who have family members, you've talked with your son or your husband or your brother, and you know him. You know him. You know he's ready now to do good. You know he's ready to do good. No point in keeping a man, warehousing a man for another 15 years. He's already done 7. He's ready to come home. He's ready to do good. Yet the city and state gonna warehouse him for another 15 years. You talk to your brother, your father, your husband, your son. You know he's ready to do good. Now he ain't going wrong no more. Yet the state want to warehouse him. Just warehouse him, his talents, his abilities, for another 15 years, whereby he'll be unproductive if the world lasts that long. At any rate, Pharaoh, I'm James David Manning. I'm the Lord's servant.
Child of the King is serving at all times. King, child of the King, child of the King.